Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, darling, had fun. Before we get into it, and before Zane walks in front of the camera here, we're giving away free Selkirk paddles for life. So we'll have one winner of free paddles for life. You'll never have to buy another paddle again, Selkirk paddles. And then 5 winners of a single Selkirk paddle. You can choose between 2, but we'll include the link down below, and you can enter to win free paddles for life. Never buy another paddle again. Do it.
Welcome back to, what did you say? The world's #1 pickleball podcast.
That's
according
correct.
According to Tim Parks.
And one other, Johnny 5.
And Johnny 5.0. Johnny has his own podcast, and he's ranking us #1.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't even think about that.
That's pretty epic. Thank you, Johnny. Well, we should give him a shout out. That's the Pickle Juice podcast, right? Or Pickle.
Yeah, he's on that.
Pickle Juice podcast.
And his thing is at Johnny 5.0. I think he has a family. He travels a lot, but he spends more time tweeting than doing anything else.
100%.
Yeah, he's on top of it.
We need those type of people.
Yeah, he's early running for the Woj of pickleball.
For the Woj? I don't know, man. Maurice the Grease just got on Twitter.
Dude.
Maurice the Grease.
So I had a call with Maurice. Say it again, Maurice the Grease.
Maurice the Grease.
He is he's a pretty funny personality. I knew him from Pickleball Forum. He would just have the most outrageous posts. I reached out to him, it would have been 2 years ago now, and had a call with him, and I was like,
no way.
Can we somehow work together? I just want to put your personality on our platform. I don't know how that works. And he said he was pretty interested in it. He lived in Alaska at the time. I don't know if he still lives in Alaska, but I've noticed this guy for over 2 years now, electric personality. I'm a big fan of him now being on Twitter, though I am worried about him because he loves to stir the pot.
Oh, we love that. We love that. We need Maurice the Grease as a paid agitator for us.
I think it'd be good to get on the pot, but he probably still lives in Alaska. I don't know.
Greasemeister, check out direct flights from Anchorage to Austin. Come through. Yeah. Open invite. Friend of the pod, even though I've never actually spoken to him in person. But
I think he's a military guy.
Really?
Also, you want to know another interesting thing about the military and personalities within pickleball? So Fit to Serve, the big guy who's been doing all the Instagram content. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He does the stuff with Valair.
Yeah. Like hilarious.
He's
funny guy.
Purple Heart recipient.
Damn.
Like insane. Yeah.
Okay. No shit. Respect. Yeah. Like mad respect.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know more about that. But
yeah. I don't know. Can you ask about stuff like that? I mean, I'm sure the story is wild, but
yeah, I don't know the etiquette there. Yeah. I just want to be respectful, and I respect and appreciate the troops. And most of what I say on this podcast is me messing around, but that's for real.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But speaking of being respectful in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, there's been a lot of different things floating around pickleball this week, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to do this episode. I was like, Zane, I really don't want to do it. I don't feel that great. Tired. I got other stuff to do.
He's hungover again. He shows up every time we have to do this podcast on a Monday. He's hungover.
Didn't drink this weekend. Actually, I did on Saturday, but
I only had 13 beers last night.
But we're here because there's just too much stuff happening, I think, is essentially the gist of it. So
there is. And so if this is going to be another episode that does have a decent amount of paddle drama, but we're going to save that for the second half. And I keep saying enough with the paddle drama. We've beaten it to death.
Yeah.
And then new stuff comes up. I'm like, all right, let's talk about the paddle drama. Right. But that will be in the second half of the show. And, I still think it's pretty entertaining and pretty good stuff. But we'll start off. We're gonna get more serious about our weekly segments. Mm-hmm. We're gonna start off with a very serious topic, which is our meme of the week. And this week's meme of the week has to be memes of pickleball, of course. I personally liked the Mr. Bean flipping everybody off, and it says Pablo at this week's PPA tournament,
right?
And he's like giving birds all over. So for you guys who don't know or didn't watch, Pablo and Federico played James and Tyson this past weekend in the Newport Beach tournament. And Tyson had himself a week. They had a phenomenal mixed run. And like Tyson was on center court like all weekend, and like Tyson's fans came out to play, and they're loud, they're rowdy, they're obnoxious. Personally, I like all that. Like they brought, like, center court was packed but dead in most of the other matches. Not Tyson's. No. And they were borderline over the line, which, again, I'm not worried about. But Don Stanley was having none of it. Don was taking control of that match, or attempting to. But so Tyson's guys were kind of chirping and being loud and chirping Pablo a little bit. And I don't know exactly what was said from the stands after Pablo and Fed won. But Pablo and Fed won, and instead of going up to the net to tap paddles, Pablo walked over to Tyson's crowd to give him the bird. And so that was the middle finger heard round the world, and very dank memes generated because of that.
Yeah, absolutely gold material. But it's not Tellez's first time interacting with a crowd and getting sanctioned for it.
Did he get sanctioned for this?
So did you see it this morning?
Oh no, I didn't see it.
PPA released that he'll be fined for this.
Oh.
Yeah. But what do we know about fines? They might just be $1.
Fines don't exist.
Yeah.
1 penny.
But he was getting into it in MLP Daytona with Dallas fans, one in particular who was pretty intoxicated. The fan got kicked out.
Was it you?
Why do you think I know so much? Tellez got was it blue card as the technical warning, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Blue, orange, I don't know.
Right. So just kind of
something.
Don't do that again. But something about Pablo, the fans get to him.
I had dinner with Pablo on whatever it was Friday night, and Pablo said himself, and this was, let's see, Friday night would have been actually before he did this on Saturday. Pablo himself says, in his accent, which I probably shouldn't do, Pablo says, like, yeah, I'm the nicest guy until I snap.
Yeah.
And Federico was just like nodding along the whole time. Federico's like, yeah, that's true. And super nice guy. And then snapped. Yeah, and then snapped. But it does seem like fans get to him a little bit.
Yeah, I think Memes of Pickleball made up like a fake quote from Pablo. It was like, he called me, referring to the fan, he called me Challenger League Chica. So the first thing that came to mind is to throw up the bird in his face. I didn't know if that was real or not. So I DM'd them and I was like, is this real? And he's like, no, we made up all these quotes. It's like, okay, good, because we almost put this in the newsletter and in the blog and stuff like that.
That was like a believable enough quote that made it funny, where it wasn't just something absolutely ridiculous.
Right. It was right on the border.
Yeah. But I have a bonus meme of the week that did not make it to Memes of Pickleball somehow or another. So my boy Althoff had himself a week at the U.S. Open, and we'll go through the U.S. Open results. But him and Eva Welscher won mixed, and Eva jumped up on Althoff and makes this face. So there's this picture, and you'll have to put this on there to do it justice. Okay. But there's this picture, and her face is just like so ecstatic. And it looks very inappropriate. I'm just gonna say it. It does, and yeah, I have to say that's my bonus meme of the week.
But he also had the other picture I was saying to you, where he won men's gold as well, men's senior pro gold, and he is on his knees, hands in the air, like he just, I don't know, won a war. Right? I've never seen someone that happy about anything. So.
What's your meme of the week? What do you like?
I don't know, because I didn't know we were going to do this segment, but we are going to start doing these. I kind of
sprung this one on him last minute.
The only one I liked was Trop's narration of, what happened with Pablo. I thought that was hilarious.
I didn't see that either. Yeah. Okay.
All right. We got to do a better job with our memes next week.
Yes. The memes will be dank here and in perpetuity. They
Sound
will
off in the comments about how a little preparation would go a long way, and we're unprofessional. Wouldn't be the first time.
Accurate.
Yeah.
I do actually still want to do a segment where every time I swear, we'll donate something to some charity. So
yeah, we got to pick the charity.
I think we should work with the guy. I wear that Stop Alzheimer's Now thing. Although I'll have to ask Sean. He runs that nonprofit. It's a nonprofit that I'm starting to work with that donates money to Alzheimer's cure research, and they donated actually like 96% of their gross receipts to research last year, which is like an astronomical amount. Most big nonprofits are on the flip side. So I'll have to ask Sean if he's cool with me swearing for Alzheimer's research. Got to run that one past him.
Yeah, if you have other suggestions, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of options. The last thing on the Tellus thing is like, and I guess all the paddle drama stuff, but I've heard on good authority that people within the PPA aren't exactly unhappy about this. And leaning into sort of, I guess we could call it the WWE side of pickleball is ultimately going to be good for. I mean, we tweeted it this morning, right? Like, it'll turn off some fans, but it'll bring in more fans, and the net effect is going to be positive, creating the drama, the storylines. We've talked about it for forever. So I don't know. I wouldn't, if stuff like this happens, I would almost see these fines or statements from the PPA as being strategic, or something that may have even just like flown under the radar and nobody realized. It was like, well, if we fine them or we do release a statement, it actually brings it into the spotlight, so people have to talk about it. Mm-hmm. I actually think it'd be wise for them to just lean into that more and double down on this stuff.
I agree. And they could even have two streams. They have one stream that has Ben and Collin on the whole time, like the clean stream. And then the other stream has like me, DJ, Tyson, Pablo. You put the bad boys on one. You got Lea on our stream. We got Lea versus Salome is actually every other match played on that stream.
Yeah.
Even just exhibitions. Let's see. And then we'll have the clean stream on the other one.
Like in the corners of the court, like a ladder over here and a folding chair over here, just in case they want to include props in like the on-court fights.
Right. For fights. I personally think that it should be more of a hockey system. Like instead of a challenge system, like when you call the ball out, like you just go gloves off.
And you fight about it.
And Don lets you fight until like somebody hits the ground or something. Right. Like you skate around a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, that probably won't be in the tournament that we eventually run.
Oh, why didn't I think about that? No, it will be. That's exactly what's going to happen.
But can I tap somebody in? Like
yeah, you can.
Okay.
You have the option to like phone a friend.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Okay, cool. Because I'm a runner, not a fighter.
Yeah.
And exactly. Then I'll be like, I'll just be a couple round, like I'll just run away and keep chirping.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
You're the instigator, but not the brawler.
Exactly. All right. So, U.S. Open happened this past week. A couple interesting results. Somewhat predictable, I think, in the men's side of things, with Kyle and Andre won the men's doubles draw over Hunter and Yates. Hunter took gold in singles, Yates silver, and Fad came back with a bronze. Nothing really too out of the ordinary or out of the expected there. I think that actually the U.S. Open is probably most interesting for the senior stuff, because this is the place where every single senior is going to go play, and best competition, best prize money. This is the most that they have on the line all year long. And it was an all-tough weekend, man. I have to give props to my boy. Him and Dane beat Weinbach and Sperling in the final, 12-10, 12-10, I believe. And that was where Althoff got down on his knees and was like all stoked about it, which is understandable. And then a little bit of an upset. My boy Althoff and Eva won the mixed. And Althoff is a underrated mixed player. It's pretty sick first point of that match, too. I think it was against Witskin.
Oh, yeah. They chest bumped.
Chest bump, first chest bump. Wow.
Did you see that clip?
I did. I didn't see the chest bump part of it.
Yeah.
That was at the end of that point. They chest bumped.
Who? It was Witskin, right?
Yeah.
So Witskin and Althoff, after they lock eyes and they go, all right, bring it in. They run up to the net and they do like a big chest bump, and the crowd just loves it.
Nice.
Althoff is he's a showman.
Yes, he is. Loves himself some zing zang center court. Yeah.
What did he keep going. I gotta bring up a text that he sent me.
Oh boy, those are always epic too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Paris and Hunter beat Simone and Kyle in the final of the mixed, which I would put at maybe a slight upset, only because you have to think that the home crowd has got to be going crazy for Simone and Kyle. Like Simone and Kyle are kind of OGs of the U.S. Open.
Yeah, right.
I think they've been playing together for forever, and both of them are right from around that area. It's got to be a pretty hostile environment for Paris and Hunter to go in and win. So props to them. But yeah, that's more or less everything that I had from the U.S. Open. Some interesting split age results. I do kind of still like those tournaments. Pretty interesting dynamic in some of those. But again, with not everybody playing, I think it makes it probably a little bit less interesting. But you do see different matchups and whatnot.
All right, let's talk PPA.
All right, Tom's is over it. He's like, all right, we can check U.S. Open off the box. Let's talk about the PPA. All right, well, what do you want to talk about, Thomas? Go ahead.
I don't know. You're the quarterback of this episode. That's what we talked about. So you start. We can start with the Johnsons.
We can start with the Johnsons. They had a pretty a relatively easy go of it, but there's not really any such thing at these tournaments. But I don't think they lost a game en route to winning, unless they did in mixed. I don't know.
I would have liked to see Schneemann and McGuffin win. Obviously, they were like the I don't know if you'd call them a Cinderella story, but they were definitely the underdogs, and it was cool to see them go as far as they did. And they're a fun team.
And the crazy part is they had match points against them, against Pablo and Michelle in the first round. They won. Yeah. I think they won 12-10 in the third.
Right.
And Pablo and Michelle had at least one match point against them. Yeah. So their day almost ended away.
What's the story there? Is it that Tyson McGuffin's ability to will his way to finals with a wide mix of partners is super impressive, and people need to give him more props? I think both these things could be true, by the way. Or is it that Schneemann has kind of come out of nowhere and is actually a bit of a force as a women's player? I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, for sure. It seems like maybe Tyson takes a little bit of time to warm up in the morning, potentially something like that. Same with Lacey, possibly, but Lacey is tough to play. She has a little bit of what looks like a hitch in her forehand, but that makes her really difficult to read as a guy straight in front of her. Mm. And she can also light the ball up pretty well. She can pound the ball and isn't afraid to go right at the guy in front of her and can back it up because she's got firepower. Yeah. So I do think that Lacey is playing really, really well. And then B, I think Tyson is probably a good fit for her, where she's almost more of the aggressor and he's there to cover up space, hit good drives. She can poach off of that. So I think it's, like you said, a combination of both of those things. So they had themselves a run. They beat right after that. They beat Jesse and Jay in 3. They beat James and Anna 11-7, 12-10, and then they beat Koopy and Ben 11-6, 11-8. I guess one of the stories from this weekend was no medals. Oh, he got a bronze. Ben got a bronze. Ben got bronze in the mixed with Andrea and no medal with Collin. They went out. What was that, first round? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Who was that?
It was Newell, and I didn't even recognize the name of his partner. And I went and started watching that match back because somebody put it up. Somebody was recording.
Oh, really? Oh, you can watch that match?
And they put it up on YouTube, yeah. And I started watching the first game just to see what happened. I assume it was just kind of one of those times where Ben and Collin get just frustrated and sort of they just almost like mentally throw in the towel and they're like frustrated with each other.
Well, I would like to see that because I didn't see any of it. And
yeah, so you can watch it. I don't know.
I'd be curious to see what happened. I heard that it was more or less like a drive slap fest from the team of
that's what it has to be if we're going to beat them, right?
Locklear. I don't know Locklear.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't know if I know him.
Yeah.
But damn. Well, that opened up the draw for Tardio and Garrett Whitehead to make a semifinal. Got schmacked by Dylan and JW.
Yep.
And Dylan told us before the match, we had tickets to a Lakers game from the Hard Eights owner, Rick Chan, who hooked us up, which was unreal.
Did you
Super
go?
sick. I went.
Yeah.
And Dylan was like, all right, I'm going to make this quick so I can go to the Lakers game tonight. So Dylan goes to a Lakers game Saturday night with us back in LA, about an hour away. Game gets done at whatever it was, like 10:30. Don't know what they did after that. Knowing Dylan, probably hit the clubs for a little while.
Yeah.
And then back to Newport Beach to clean up a final the next day.
Yeah.
Good for him. And then they ended up going straight sets against the Newman-Wright combo. So good weekend for J-Dub. Good weekend for Dylan. Good stuff all around.
Do you care that there was no singles? What's your take on that? I didn't even notice. Somebody tweeted. somebody literally tweeted, was like, did anybody notice that there was no singles, or what do you feel about it? And I was just like, oh, I didn't even realize that.
I think my personal take is there should be one singles tournament per month. So if you're running 3 PPAs in a month, you need one singles, because I'm not going to play more than one singles tournament in a month. I think that's, I don't know, probably a little bit too much on the body and on the mind more than anything. So like, yeah, why not do a couple without singles and then make the ones that do have singles more of a big deal? Maybe give us some better airtime for singles. And also I think that the main reason for no singles in this one was because the game has grown. The Newport Beach Tennis and Pickleball Club is awesome. They have like 3,000 pickleball members, and they have like 3,000 courts there. The place is packed with courts. Yeah, but they're just a little bit too small for singles. Mm-hmm. Other than the center court that you see, it's a little bit too tough to play singles. Like the backstop is a little bit too close. That's what you mean. The fences are a little bit too close on the sides. Mm-hmm. And so I'd imagine they just said, look, we can load this tournament up with amateurs. We're not even going to bother with singles. The pros are definitely going to complain to us about the courts. And so let's just not deal with it. Let's scrap the singles. So speaking of Newport, did you happen to see somebody shout to you, "Hey Zane," and then point at their shirt with a Dink logo on it? I did. Who was that? That's Brody. So my team has a little bit of an issue with you right now. Okay. All right, well, I don't care. Because you... What's up, guys? As you know, MTE is one of my drinks of choice. It is a rapidly growing 2-ounce supplement that helps support peak performance. And for me personally, helps me get into that flow state. It replaces excess caffeine with nootropics and adaptogens, and that provides energy and focus without that crash that you might get. It provides all of the benefits of excess caffeine without the nasty jitters or the crash. The formula also supports a calm mood. It actually supports better sleep at night, stress response, inflammation response, and immunity. You can use the code DINK15, which gives you 15% off of your first order of MTE. Give it a whirl. Brody, who it was like, how does he not know who I am? Meanwhile, Adam is all are these people? We have a big team. I don't think people realize. I think people just assume it's me on social and writing the stuff. But we've got 4 to 5 different people potentially, authoring or tweeting or posting on Instagram at any given time. So I told them, I was like,
make Instagram. Start getting your personalities out there. People got to know who you are.
Yeah. Or Brody, when you're around me, wear a name tag. Okay. I'm such an asshole. I just
sorry,
had Deborah.
Brody.
No, he was like a couple courts down and said hey, and I was like, oh, are you JB? Because JB is the one that I'd interacted with the most.
Yeah.
Other than Kim as well. But I think you need a little like meet the team section on your website.
About it. Yeah. We were so Brody is doing our paddle reviews now, so you'll see him on our YouTube. JB's never in content. Kim's got an Instagram. She's putting stuff out there. Adam does a ton of our writing. He's probably doing most of the writing. And then Rowan is on the sticks of, and you'll see him at events. He's the one who produces the Tennis Sucks pod, but he works for us full time now, and he does like a ton of our content for social and for this podcast too. So
okay.
Then we've got Mitch/Jamie, who's the producer of this show.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Jamie. All right. Well, I think we made it an obligatory half an hour without talking about paddles.
Yeah.
That's about as good as it's going to get today.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So we got a bunch of different things that we need to go through because there's been a lot of developments in this area over the last week.
Yeah. If this isn't enough for you, or if you're tired of it, apologies in advance. Cause I think, so you're leaving, but I think later this week, we're going to get Brooks, one of their engineers, and then Ben Johns all in the studio. And we're going to do a joint podcast that'll be later this week. So we're trying to isolate the time. So it'll be the first episode without Zane, but I think it'll be an interesting one. And if you're tired of this paddle stuff, just don't even watch. But watch because we like when you guys watch. But anyway, all right. What should we start with?
Well, I'd say we can start with, and I actually didn't know that Brooks was coming in later in the week, so we can start with the MLP test results and their statement. We don't need to go super in depth on that, since we'll go super in depth on that on whatever day that is.
Yep.
But basically, at the last MLP event in Daytona, MLP took any paddle that we were going to play with and did some forms of their own testing. And there were no repercussions, no sanctions if you have an illegal paddle. It was just for science. And so I think they tested something over like 200 paddles and created baselines for grit and weight and deflection and whatnot, and released the results of every single paddle tested somewhat anonymously. So you can see the readings of each individual paddle, which is numbered off, but you can't see exactly what paddle that was or who it belonged to. But what I really appreciate from this is like, now we're actually looking at numbers, right? When other entities have been testing, you're getting a pass fail, right? Here, MLP is being transparent throughout the process.
Yep.
And I think that kind of allows for a bit of public commentary, right? Where we're talking about it. People can give opinions on what standards should be developed based on the data that you can actually see rather than just a pass fail. So I do think that the transparency is pretty solid there. I'll be curious to see exactly where things land for enforcement at the next Major League Pickleball event. Anything from that little report that stuck out to you that you want to talk about briefly?
No, I mean, just the fact that so I think there were, 6 paddles or 6 manufacturers? Do you know what it was? Was it 6 paddles or 6 manufacturers that?
I don't.
And they reached out to them so they're not releasing that publicly, but they reached out to them and said, hey, FYI, these paddles exceeded the limits. Changes need to be made ahead of the next event. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was sort of an interesting way of handling it, right?
Yeah, I believe they reached out to the players as well. I think it said in their statement.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That honestly feels like an eternity ago. That was like at the beginning of last week, or maybe mid last week. Mm-hmm. Lots and lots happened even since then.
Yep.
So, so we're going to go back to Red Rock because we have some results or some things to comment on from there, where Salome Davidze's paddle was tested by Lea Jansen or challenged. And they didn't have paddle testing on site like they did in Newport Beach this week, which we will discuss. Right. So essentially, Lea challenged one of Salome's paddles, and they had to send it back to some form of testing agency or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't seen any statement from the PPA on this, on Tyson's paddle, which I believe was challenged there, as well as Salome's. I haven't seen anything come from the PPA, but we do have a statement from Salome saying that her paddle was cleared and that she had no repercussions from the PPA. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Well, Lea made her statement as well, and basically after that more or less apologized for her behavior on the court during that match, which I think is a fair apology, right? And let's see, we have it here. Do we want to read Salome's as well? I feel like we should, since we're gonna read something from Lea as well. So this was 2 days ago. Salome wrote, "Hi everyone. First, thank you for all the support and kind words over the past few weeks. I love playing pickleball, and I really hope that the sport can grow and become strong and mature professionally. Right now, there are a lot of distractions, and I have decided that generally they are not worth paying attention to, but occasionally I will have to address them, so here goes. I was notified by the PPA Tour yesterday that the paddle from Red Rock in St. George, Utah that was sent for testing was not delaminated. I used the same paddle throughout the tournament. By the way, it was marked by the PPA after the paddle challenge following the quarterfinal match. So that's that. Can't wait to see you all out on the courts this summer." Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think that is a fair statement for her at the time being, right? Like, why go into more of it? She was notified by the PPA that her paddle was cleared. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I am surprised about is that PPA hasn't made any statement about this, right? And I've heard from multiple sources that this is true. Her paddle was cleared. So I don't think that that's inaccurate. I'm sure it's not. But PPA has already made a whole bunch of, or a big statement about Sarah Ansboury's paddle from this weekend. Right. So I'm a little surprised. And I think that we should have, I mean, I would like the PPA to address that publicly, right? I think it's something that deserves addressing, both hers and Tyson's paddles. Ansboury's? Salome's and Tyson's from Red Rock. There's been no public statement to my knowledge based on that.
Yeah, I think it was just like they weren't sure how to deal with it. But it seems like they're going to be making statements moving forward. I mean, they released a statement about Ansboury and Braverman being DQ'd, and the most curious thing about that is that Ansboury's paddle was marked okay, and then later she's DQ'd after playing with it, right? So she even had the sticker, and in her video she shows, yeah, my paddle was checked prior. Now it was, I guess, then tested later. So somebody would have challenged it then, I assume. Mm-hmm. And then it was noted that it was, exceeded the limits or something was wrong with it. We actually don't know what was wrong with it at this point, do we? Well, so here's the thing. You have to test different times for different things, right? So when you get a paddle that is approved before a match, if it's, let's talk about spin for a second, right? We're not talking about what Sarah's paddle was tested for. Let's talk about spin. If you play a match, the grittiest your paddle will ever be is at the beginning of that match. So if you test before the match, you can test effectively for grit.
Now, when we're dealing with delamination type of stuff, the least, with certain paddles, the least delamination or the least space between the surface of the paddle and the core of the paddle will occur before a match. You play with the paddle and there creates more space. So yes, I think that everything that she said is likely true, where it was approved beforehand. And if you read the PPA's statement, they told her that
she was close,
right on the borderline, and advised not playing with that paddle. So this
sounds like it is a delam issue then.
Correct. So it was prior to the match, it was fine, barely. Mm-hmm. During the match, it became not fine, and it was tested after the match.
Yep.
And was found to be over or exceeding whatever limit there is.
Yeah, let me read this. According to the PPA's official statement, Sarah was given a warning before the semifinal match that her paddle had a high likelihood of crossing the legal threshold. The PPA says it is true that other players' paddles failed the initial mandatory testing process, but in those cases, those players chose to retire their paddles before playing with them. Sarah was like, okay, I'm near the limit. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to keep playing with it, right? Hopefully it doesn't end up in violation. So this incident, and this is a quote, this incident was the first time testing had been conducted directly following a match after a player challenge. For this reason, this was the only occasion on which additional steps were taken, per PPA Tour standard protocols, all of which had been communicated to players prior to the tournament.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, yikes that you can be within the limits and then literally like you can play 2-3 matches and all of a sudden you're in violation. I mean, imagine trying to dance around that. That's going to be really tough. I mean, this isn't, in my mind, this is not going to be if this is how it works, this isn't going to be the first time or the last time it happens.
Well, I think it was very, very nice of Carl to give her a heads up that she's in danger of being in, like he could have said nothing.
But isn't it crazy that right now, the way paddles are manufactured, that this, I mean, we've talked about it before, but this is such a crazy incident in my mind that we have such an issue with the paddle technology right now that you can literally, the day of, have a legal paddle and then as the tournament goes on, then be in violation. I mean, so do you have to for every match, do you have to switch to a new paddle? I mean,
if you want to push the limit to the very edge, yeah. And so here's the thing, like, I'm not going to say this about Sarah's paddle, but the way that you, or let's say me, if I have a paddle that I know is possibly like able to be delaminated, what I can do is I can go get it tested by Carl and say, okay, it's fine. And then I go back to my car and I beat it with a hammer. Or no, I'm not kidding. This is what you can do.
Right.
You can actually do this. So that's why the timing is important. And the heads up from Carl, I think I think eliminates any doubt in my mind that there was BS going on. Right. So like, there was a fair warning. We all understand how delamination works among the pros at this point.
Yeah.
So it sucks, right? It sucks for her that it was fine before and it was illegal afterwards. But let's say let's take me as an example. I do this. I give a paddle to Carl and it's fine. It's not even close. Carl's like, you're fine. And then I go to my car and beat the hell out of it for half an hour or whatever it takes. And then I come back and I play my match and everybody in Newport Beach can hear that my paddle is delaminated. And then my opponents challenge it and it's found to be illegal. I'm sure Sarah didn't actually go and beat her paddle with a thing, but it's something that could happen.
Yeah.
And so I think testing before and after is essential.
It's pretty interesting because from an outsider's perspective, my mind goes to, I would be like, man, this sucks. Like, this sucks. This is like impossible to navigate. But you as a player, you're saying, actually, this is pretty fair. And that was generally the sentiment I heard reflected amongst most players, including Ansboury and Braverman. They were both like, this is fair. This is what needs to happen. So we're bummed that we're getting DQ'd. We forfeit the points, the prize money, and a shot at, potentially going on and winning gold. But this is what needs to happen if we're going to improve this process. I mean, Lucy Kovalova in her post-match interview was like, yeah, this is deserved. This is a deserved, like, and this is how it should be. And I thought that was an interesting statement. And then like Elise Jones was tweeting like, we're so thankful for, it was almost like a bunch of the pros were tweeting in favor of this. It almost looked like it was like propaganda, right? But like all these players seem to be pretty aligned that like, this is how it needs to happen. So I just think it's interesting because if I'm a player and I'm always in jeopardy of my paddle delaminating in the middle of a match and me forfeiting everything, I would be like, well, this sucks.
Agreed, but it doesn't just delaminate over the course of a match. It doesn't go from, unless you've pushed it right to the edge prior to a match. That's not how it normally happens.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like...
But even you saying it's not how it normally happens.
Well, let's say, okay.
That means there is always this risk.
I suppose so. Yeah. But again, it's not a risk that is... If your paddle is well... I don't know the exact units. I don't know exactly how it's measured. I don't know what unit it's measured in. But let's say whatever threshold is 50. At the beginning of the match, you're 30. Your paddle isn't going to delaminate like a tremendous amount just by playing pickleball for an hour. It might. So it's not going to go from 30 to 51. It might go from 49.5 to 50.5 over the course of a match.
Yeah.
So like it's like that one guy on the whiteboard, the more you F around, the more you find out. Yeah. So if you've F'd around a lot beforehand, you're going to find out.
Great opportunity to donate to charity there. Got to figure this out.
True. Sorry, charity is not today. Oh, brutal. But like, so you're not going to go from a completely legal, nowhere close to being delaminated paddle to an illegal delaminated paddle over the course of playing one match. You play, you F around, you're going to find out. So that's my take on it. And yeah, I did see, I didn't make a tweet about it, but I'm pretty high on how the PPA has like handled this between now and Red Rock, right? Or from Red Rock to now. Red Rock was a disaster in terms of paddle stuff. There's no testing whatsoever until afterwards. Mm-hmm. And now to have Carl on site being able to do all of this in real time is huge. I would not have thought that would be a possibility just over the 2-week period of time.
Right.
So like props to them. Really, really good way to implement and police over the course of just 2 weeks. I think at least for now, have a system that works, or at least works well enough. Maybe it's not a complete 100% perfect, but like
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, a lot better than nothing, and addressing that delamination problem.
Yeah. Okay. And it seems the players are happy with it.
Yeah, I am. So, we did not get to what statement that she made. So, more or less, she wanted to thank everybody that was involved and apologized for her behavior during the course of that match against Salome. So she questioned the paddle's validity, and I think that, some of the statements that she made, and obviously her coming on here and, saying her side of the story was, I think, probably part of the reason why this happened so quickly, mm-hmm. right? Why there is such a decent amount of testing at this past week's tournament. Did she behave properly during that match? Probably not, but I don't think you can blame her for testing, and still, I think I would like to see the PPA say something about what happened that weekend, because right now we have accounts from Salome, we have accounts from Lea. I'd like to hear a third party side of that, because both of those guys are going to tell their own story, right? So, just for viewers' knowledge, we did reach out to Salome after we filmed our message or our video with Lea. She responded around the same time she made her public statement. We read her public statement here, and I personally asked her if she wanted to add anything else or a video segment to include here, and I have not heard back. So that's still an open invite there. Journalism.
I think she indicated that she was thinking about potentially coming on, but we wanted to make sure it was like in studio. But we thought if she recorded something, we could then sort of like put it into the podcast. But I think generally, like, we want to give her a platform and allow her to say whatever she wants to say. It sounds like she just wants to kind of, I guess you could call it taking the high road here and just not get into all of it, which I totally respect. Yeah. And, you know, she made her statement. That's probably, she's not a very vocal person, right? She's not big on social media. So I think she's handling it professionally with class, and she just wants to go out there and play. But we've reached out multiple times to try and just, because we don't want it to be just this one-sided thing.
Correct.
Right? So we just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to say what they want to say. So hopefully we'll get her on. I would love to get her on. I think people just want to know more about her, right? Because she's so behind the scenes, there's a little bit of mystery around her.
Definitely.
And the only times I ever hear from her is one, in that statement, and then two, she likes to jump on, and I don't know if it's actually her, but the YouTube chat. Because I started talking to her in the YouTube chat during the live stream, and someone was like, "Careful, that's the fake one." And I was like, "What? Like, is it?" But it seemed like it was actually her. So I don't know. And sort of the weird thing about the YouTube chats, you never know who you're actually talking to.
Right.
But yeah, no, definitely an open invite. I'd love to get her on just to ask her more about who she is, what she's about. And, people get to know her more. Because right now she's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, agreed. So I would love that as well.
All right, one more thing I wanted to ask you about. Have you heard about these guys who are juicing paddles for players?
I know a little bit about it. What do you ask?
So it's real.
Yeah.
So there's a guy you can send your paddle to, and he can do some interesting things.
Yeah, he can make your paddle magic.
Really? Mm-hmm. What else you got? I'm asking you. Sounds like you're in the know.
Yeah, so I guess this has kind of been going on for a little bit of time, and now it's a bit more of an open secret.
I heard that at least more than five pros are sending their paddles to this guy.
Okay, well then I think you know more than I do. So take it away.
That's it. That's what I know.
I know that this person actually exists, and this person can actually do what they say they can do.
What do they do?
From what I understand, they can basically take a paddle that wouldn't normally delaminate on its own, and
create the delamination effect.
Correct. Yeah. So like there are certain paddles that so mostly it's those thermoformed paddles. When you play and throughout the natural course of events with playing pickleball, you can create that pocket just by hitting the ball or by manipulating it yourself, by hitting it with a hammer or some form of blunt object that doesn't break the face, or break the core, but creates that space in a quicker, more efficient time. So there are some paddles that do it themselves. There are some paddles that really can't without this guy's help.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Let's get this guy on.
I wonder. I shouldn't say it. If this guy wants to come on, this guy can contact us.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger business it would be in his best interest. The bigger business for this guy isn't just souping up the pros, right? Which now it sounds like, that's more of a risk to the players than it is going to be an advantage. He should be doing this for amateurs. He probably is, but that's going to be, if he's actually building a business around juicing paddles, I'll send him my paddle right now.
Yeah, he's got a trademark paddle juice or something like that.
Yeah. Oh God, my team on that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to get him on for sure.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else?
That was about it for me.
Yeah. A few things we needed to discuss. So we did this episode, but I think we'll be doing another one later this week. So hopefully that comes together because I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be even better without me here.
Yeah, it'll be another one.
It'll be a lot more professional without me here.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to like sit off in the corner and maybe ask questions, but I'm going to have nothing to add. It'll be the Ben John show, but he'll be able to talk directly with this engineer, as they keep referring to him. And so that should be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. We'll tune in for an even better podcast later in the week.
Subscribe.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, rather had fun,